I'd like to invite my Christian brother, Jelinek, to come and share a little bit of his real life. Jerad, thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning. As Pastor Jason said, my name is Jerad, and he invited me up on stage to share my story of how my family and I became Horizons members. But before I get into the story, I want to tell you just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Grand Island, went to Grand Island Senior High, and graduated in the mid-90s. I won't give away the year, but there is one thing that I remember from Grand Island Senior High, one class. I took a lot of classes, we all did in high school. One class I remember that I was just terrified of, and that was speech class. So speech class terrified me, and here I am up on stage giving a speech. But that leads me to my next point, is when Pastor Jason asked me to come up on stage, my easy answer would have been, no, thank you. I don't want to put myself in that situation, but because I have a lot of love for this church and this community and everything it does, then my answer was yes. So that's why I'm up here today. But my story of how we became Horizons members is a series of coincidences that might not be all that coincidental. And my story starts with potty training. Okay, all parents, we've all gone through the potty training stage, and we were potty training our 3-year-old daughter, and me being a dad, and I do what dads do, we needed some groceries at the grocery store, and I decided to take my daughter, and just on a whim, I was like, I'm a dad, I'm not going to use a backup plan, we're not going to take any diapers or any extra clothes or any bags, let's just go, let's do this, let's jump right into it. So I took a huge leap of faith, and I took my daughter to the grocery store, and we needed quite a few items, so this is going to be a lengthy trip. So we're at the grocery store, and we're going through all the lanes and picking out items, and we get to the checkout lane, and everybody knows what's coming. We're in the line, and I hear this, Daddy, I gotta go potty. So I leave the line, and it's urgent because she's 3 and she's potty training. So we go to the bathroom, and we made it, and she had a successful trip to her first public restroom, and we celebrated in the bathroom, and it was a good moment. She did it, and so we go back in the checkout line, and you could tell she just has this ear-to-ear grin, and her excitement carries over into the checkout line, and she tells the cashier, I went poopy on the potty. And so I was like, yes, but you don't really need to tell her that. But the cashier played along with it, and she was like, all right, giving high fives, and it was another great moment, and that was that. We checked out, we went home, and coincidentally, the next day I found myself in that same grocery store, and my family was waiting for me out in the car. I was just picking up a couple of things, and I went through the checkout line, and I just happened to overhear a conversation between the cashier and the carryout about this girl that was in the store yesterday that was so proud of herself for doing what she did, and I just kind of jumped into the conversation. I said, yeah, that was my daughter, and she was very proud of herself, and she still is. And the carryout says, who looked to be about 16, she says, oh, I love kids. And I said, oh, are you sure you don't love the idea of kids? Because, you're 16, kids can do some pretty terrible things, and I have gray hairs to prove it. But she said, yes, no, I really love kids, and you could just tell that she did. And the more we talked about it, the more I could see that she did truly love kids. And I only had a couple of things, and I let her help me out to my car. And we talked about kids, and we needed a babysitter. Our family needed a babysitter, so I just asked her. I was like, do you ever babysit? And she said, yes, all the time. So she gave me some information, her number and references numbers, and wrote them all down on my receipt. And I get in the car with my wife and kids, and my wife looks at me. And she says, did you just get her phone number? And I was like, yeah. And then I explained to her that, you know, she does babysit and we need a babysitter, so she was good with it. And so we called the references, and she checked out spotless. So we decided to go ahead and schedule something for a Friday. It was winter and there's snow on the ground, so Friday. So Friday rolls around, and I get off work, and I'm walking to my pickup, and there's a couple of snow drifts, and I notice that there is a $20 bill on the sidewalk. So I pick it up, I look around, there's nobody around, and I'm like, I'm going to pay the babysitter with this $20 bill. And so Friday rolls around. Well, it was Friday. So our babysitter comes over, and the kids just loved her that night, and she absolutely loved the kids. And from that day forward, we started a relationship with the babysitter, and it is a very close relationship. And she's, you know, one of our family, and her name is Allie Karstens, or Allie Belling. And you all know that she loves kids. But I guess the point to my story is that all these coincidences, you know, was God talking to us and leading us down the road to Horizons, because Allie was a member of Horizons, and we were looking for a church also. She said, why don't you check out Horizons, because that's my church. And the first time we were here, we heard the band, we heard the sermon, and we just fell in love with the place, and that love is still very strong. So what I invite all you to do is, you know, listen to God with not only your ears and your eyes, but, you know, your mind, your heart, and your soul, because God does talk to all of us.
Praise God.